Good afternoon and welcome to CCN Midday News, The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 22nd of July. Senate GOP supports another round of stimulus checks to Americans. Ohio's House Speaker, Larry Householder, arrested in a $60 million bribery case. And Trump legally justification for the abduction of Portland protesters is absurd. And Trump's ex-lawyer, Michael Cohen, gets a quick court hearing on the prison release bid after suing the Attorney General Barr. And more than 300,000 immigrants may become citizens in time to vote as the COVID-19 stalls the process. Senate requests an ethics probe after Ivanka Trump's Goya endorsement. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez response after GOP Congressman accosts her on the Capitol steps. Let's get to the news. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell revealed on Tuesday morning that the Senate Republicans plan to support another round of stimulus checks or direct payments to Americans in their coronavirus relief proposal. In a Senate floor speech, McConnell gave no details on just who Republicans think should get the next round of checks. Most Republicans want a lower income threshold to qualify. The cap on payments in the first CARES bill was $99,000. Mitch McConnell made the announcement as top White House officials were set to come to Capitol Hill to tell the Senate Republicans what President Donald Trump wants in the relief package, including a payroll tax cut and cuts in proposal funds for testing and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, items many Senate Republicans oppose. Late Tuesday, Secretary of the Treasury Steve Mnuchin and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows were to meet with the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. House Democrats are pushing for much more than the $1 trillion package Mitch McConnell wants, including considerably more in extra unemployment benefits due to stop at the end of the month. And here we are at the portion of the show where I basically give my commentary on the stories for this afternoon. And first we have the second round of stimulus checks coming from the office of Mitch McConnell. Now, I don't know if many of you all know, but Mitch McConnell was adamant that there would be no second round of stimulus checks after the first one. So he has now changed his tune, surprisingly enough. I personally think it's because the election season is somewhat approaching upon us. And if you see Trump going down in flames, everybody's going to start scrambling to make sure they save themselves and their political power that they may possess. And I think this is just a way for Mitch McConnell to kind of hold on to some power if, in fact, Trump loses his re-election bid. If he loses and they put out the stimulus and he loses, like I said, they're maybe trying to some way where they could save face and somewhat keep their power in the Senate. We shall see. There is someone also coming upon the heels of Mitch McConnell's seat in Kentucky, because he is also up for re-election himself in his home state. So this will be very interesting. Federal officials arrested Ohio's House Speaker Larry Householder and 4 others Tuesday as a part of a $60 million racketeering and bribery investigation that prosecutors described as one of the largest public corruption cases in Ohio's history. All of the charges are tied to what the federal prosecutors described as a criminal enterprise dedicated to securing a bailout for 2 nuclear power plants in northern Ohio, which is expected to cost the state's utility rate payers $1 billion. A crime complaint unsealed Tuesday describes the efforts as householders' enterprise and states that he and his associates sought to expand their political power, enrich themselves, and conceal their criminal conspiracy. So my commentary on this particular story about this House Speaker out of Ohio, that absolute power corrupts absolutely, is definitely the phrase of the day. I think it's unfortunate that, of course, the corruption coming from the top, everybody involved or on board with the corruption, coming from the top, thinks that they can do the same things too, and everything will be hunky-dory. They'll be able to get away with it, but not particularly so for this Ohio Speaker of the House, a Republican who has basically been charged with racketeering. There was secret payments made over a 3-year period in exchange for billions of dollars in bailouts. The enterprise concealed the payment to receive bribe money and then transfer the payments initially to the web-related entities and accounts. They basically was wiring over $60 million. The exact number is $60,886,835.86 in secret payments. And him, along with 4 other political representatives, were arrested. So this is definitely something to get into. I just think that the corruption that has come spewing out of Washington, the swamp creatures that have come to Washington, there's swamp creatures all over, and these swamp creatures are doing nothing but enriching themselves with the taxpayer money. This was definitely a bailout that was given to energy companies during this pandemic, one being First Energy of Ohio, which was actually in the process of bankruptcy proceedings, and the other one is Ohioan Energy Securities, which paid millions of dollars in advertising in regards to this, because they were trying to push the narrative to the people that if they didn't do anything, China, if they didn't exactly vote for the bailout, China was going to take over Ohio's power grid. So even using, that's funny that you can use foreign influence to push people to fight back against it, but you can also use foreign influence to promote cheating in an election, and that be okay. So it's just crazy, but so glad to see that the corruption is starting, that people are starting to wake up and pay attention, and these criminals are being sentenced. Over the weekend, a group of Portland, Oregon moms confronted federal officers who had fired tear gas at them and other peaceful protesters on Saturday outside of the federal courthouse. The escalation of the Portland protest came as unidentified federal officers in paramilitary uniforms were caught on tape abducting protesters, and as President Donald Trump announced on Monday that he might send more federal law enforcement to cities run by liberal Democrats. Portland's tactic against protesters includes efforts to grab them, put a lot of people in jail. On Monday, it was reported that the Department of Homeland Security will be sending 150 federal agents to Chicago, to Chicago this week with an unspecified agenda. The apparent legal justification for the abduction of protesters is weak, and it should be vigorously challenged in the court before Trump can export these tactics to other cities for use against citizens exercising their First Amendment rights. Last week, people wearing combat fatigues were seen pulling apart peaceful protesters off the streets of Portland, Oregon, and hustling them into unmarked vehicles. Their uniforms carried on no identification insignia, but they are clearly military uniforms. Based on a video of evidence so far, the people being arrested were not engaging in any crime. So we are faced with two questions. First, are these people military personnel, and are these police officers dressed up like soldiers? Second, do these people have the authority to sweep people off the streets like the way they have? According to the Department of Homeland Security, the answer to the first question is that the force patrolling of the streets of Portland consists of the Federal Protection Services. These jobs, which is to protect federal property, personnel from other federal agencies, particularly Border Patrol, have also reportedly been dispatched to assist in this mission. Okay, and this particular article talks about what I've discussed this week. Not only is Oregon dealing with a secret police that have been just picking up protesters and putting in unmarked vehicles, whether these are military personnel or police officers dressed in military gear, we do not know. They have no identification on them whatsoever. They are not even coordinating with the local police department and FBI units and things of that nature. This is just like some kind of secret deployment that the president has issued for Democratic-led states that are still doing peaceful protests in the midst of the unrest or the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and so on and so forth, to bring attention to the police brutality as well as the overfunding of police departments and things of that nature. So Donald Trump is really swinging swinging for the fences. I mean, he is all out almost running an all-out dictatorship in the United States, and the fact that there's nobody blowing the whistle or trying to figure out, is this legal to do, violating people's First Amendment rights to protest peacefully in the midst of an election year, in the midst of a pandemic. We don't know whether these people are being put in jails. We have no idea. They're just picking up people that are peacefully protesting, and again, putting them in unmarked vehicles that they are renting from, these local car rental places. I just think that we have reached a new tipping point in democracy, in which the military is used to pick up other American citizens. This is getting to be really crazy. And he also warned that he will be sending these specialized troops or police officers or border patrol agencies, whomever they are, to Chicago as well, to deal with the peaceful protest there as well. And breaking news also, there was just a shooting in Chicago with 14 people shot. But again, I just think it has a lot. I just think it's more to it. I don't really think people are going around shooting people for no reason. I think this is all a setup and pushed to increase the law and order kind of mantra, which I think people in law enforcement are carrying out these killings just like you saw, video of people going into the protest and breaking store shop windows and spray painting on buildings to help push this violent kind of storyline that they're going with. So I think it's the same thing with the police department and all these killings and shootings, but it's just my thoughts. A federal judge Tuesday quickly granted President Donald Trump's former personal lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, a hearing on his new lawsuit seeking his release from prison. He was returned to a cell earlier in July after refusing to agree not to publish a damaging book about Trump. While serving a criminal sentence in home confinement, the hearing on Cohen's request for a temporary restraining order will be held at 11 a.m. on Thursday in the U.S. District Court in Manhattan. If granted, Cohen could be sprung for a second time in 2 months from the federal prison in upstate New York. Cohen, 53, was in the middle of serving a 3-year sentence when he was released from prison later in May due to the coronavirus. That the Manhattan resident's preliminary health issues has him at elevated risk for coronavirus. He has pled guilty in the 2018 to financial crimes and lying to Congress about a planned Trump Towers in Moscow and to campaign finance crimes related to hush money payment of 2 women who claim to have had sex with Trump. Some commentary on this particular story. So Michael Cohen, who used to be the former personal lawyer of, at the time, Donald Trump, now President Donald Trump, finds himself, he was released out of a federal prison due to his health amidst the spread of the coronavirus, otherwise known as COVID-19, throughout the prison system that was getting a lot of the inmates sick and raising the numbers of infected individuals. So he was one of the lucky ones to get released due to poor health conditions and released to home confinement. However, on being home confined, in his, I guess, in the agreement to the process, he is not allowed to write anything about Trump or talk to any media outlets or anything in the media. Basically, he's silenced. If he wants to be a home confinement, he has to be silent. Apparently, he's in the process of writing a tell-all book, and they caught wind of it, and then they kicked him and put him back in jail. He has now been put up a lawsuit against the Attorney General, Bill Barr, and the Justice Department, and they will be hearing arguments on Thursday, I believe. So this, of course, will be interesting. Michael Cohen, once again, former lawyer of Donald Trump, trying to tell a tell-all book, and they're trying to keep him quiet. And if he doesn't keep quiet, then they're going to put him back in jail. But even in jail, he could still get interviewed and continue to write his tell-all book, which he was supposed to be out anyway in 3 years. So we'll see how this goes. Hopefully he, gets some justice and is able to go free. hoping to become U.S. citizens in time to vote in a presidential election in November may still be a dream for more than 300,000 immigrants at risk of not becoming citizens in time to cast their ballot after the federal agency in charge of processing naturalization applications suspended in-person interviews and oath ceremonies this spring amidst the coronavirus pandemic. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the agencies that process immigration benefits and notify in early March that the naturalization interviews, which is done in person, had been scheduled for April 21st. Shortly after, they received another notification that the naturalization interview will be rescheduled due to the coronavirus pandemic. Commentary on this particular article, know that voter suppression is real, and any way they can suppress the vote, they will. So they have put a delay on people becoming actual citizens of the naturalization process. It has been pushed back due to the coronavirus pandemic. However, these are 300,000 individuals that may not be able to vote come election time. So a lot of people who are hoping to cast their ballot for the first time as American citizens will not. Unfortunately, if the paperwork doesn't get processed, they will not be able to participate in the voting process in November. And again, that's 300,000 votes. And knowing the small margin in which Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, won the popular vote, but lost the electoral college vote, 300,000 votes could be as simple as winning the presidency or losing it. So trust and believe, it's very important, and they're trying to do anything and turn over every stone to make sure people, their voting rights get somewhat halted if any of these Trumpians feel like they could lose come November. So they'll try to do anything, and this doesn't surprise me not one bit. Just days after Ivanka Trump created an uproar for endorsing Goya Foods after its CEO praised her father, a pair of senators want an investigation into whether President Donald Trump's daughter violated any federal ethics rules. Senator Tom Carper of Delaware and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts on Monday sent a letter to the Office of Government Ethics inquiring about the possible disciplinary action for Ivanka Trump, who serves as a senior advisor in the White House. The president's daughter is facing criticism after posting a photo last week of her holding a can of Goya black beans and giving the English and Spanish version of the Latin food company's trademark slogan, "If it's Goya, it has to be good." Federal ethics law prevents federal employees from using their position for the endorsement of any products, service, or enterprise, or for the private gain of friends, relatives, and persons with whom the employee is affiliated in a non-governmental capacity. Okay, so here's a case of the Trump administration doing what they do best. Years ago, I believe Ronald Reagan crowned the phrase welfare queen, and it was supposed to have something to do with this woman who was making a lot of money off of the system. Well, it's funny how no one sees what Donald Trump and his family are doing right now at this present moment as being welfare recipients or welfare queens and kings and princesses or whatever you want to call them. But that's exactly what they're doing, because they're using government money and enriching themselves. The same thing. I mean, the difference is what? Because that woman back in the 80s was going to social services and manipulating the government to enrich herself. It's the same thing. He manipulates the government to enrich himself, at the same time of violating ethics codes. When you are working in the federal government at that level, you are not allowed to endorse any products or anything of that nature. So the fact that they continuously are allowed to do that, as well as the Secret Service having taxpayers pay for the Secret Service jet skis, renting golf carts from the Trump organization every time they stay at Mar-a-Lago or any other Trump organization. The Secret Service all have to stay at his hotels, and then the American people are charged for all of this to make sure that the Trump brand continues to make money while in the White House, and that in itself is illegal. Not supposed to use the office of the White House or any government official to push your own business or the business of someone else. Florida Representative Republican Ted Yoho launched an ugly personal attack against New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez when they met on the steps of the Capitol on Monday, according to a reporter of The Hill who overheard the exchange. The congressman allegedly called Ocasio-Cortez disgusting for comments she had made linking the economic insecurity to the recent spike in crime in New York City. The congresswoman then reportedly told Yoho that he was being rude and walked away. A few steps down, Yoho called his House colleague a fucking bitch, according to the outlet. Ocasio-Cortez responded to the attack Tuesday morning, saying that she had never spoken to Yoho before Monday. Yoho later last year that he announced that he would be retiring from Congress at the end of 2020, citing a pledge he made when he was first elected. I don't even have much commentary on this, but this is utterly disgusting. And if Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House in charge of the House of Representatives, does not call for either this representative stepping down from Congress completely or some kind of fine violation or something, because this is absolutely ridiculous. It is one thing to disagree with your fellow colleague across the aisle on policy and things of that nature, but it's a whole nother thing to demean them and basically call them out of their name. I've never in my years experienced or heard of some of the vile, vulgar things I've just heard. To call a woman of color a bitch because all she stated was the reason for the height in crime is due to economic instability, meaning that the reason why there is so much unrest in the inner cities at times is because of the lack of economic resources. That if you put resources in the communities, as far as resources as in education, funding, and funding not just funding that somebody has to fill out an application for, but funding where they're pushing for additional funds for people who do work and maybe have to work 3 and 4 jobs to make ends meet, to at least be able to cut out people having to work 3 and 4 jobs and maybe just have 2 jobs or 1 job to sustain their family, which, is not something that is unattainable or even something that doesn't even make sense, because it makes sense, it works. There have been many cities rather, in the United States that have done that, have done a little extra, almost like a stimulus, and it has thrived in communities. So don't really see the issue. That was really disrespectful for him to call her out a name like that. But of course, being a Trumpian, they think that that's something fun and something they can hang their hat on. But to call a woman out of her name, very disrespectful. And again, if Nancy Pelosi doesn't say anything or do something about it, I will definitely be giving her the side eye. Because as a woman, that don't fly. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.